let me ask you this. Do you have the support of Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf? We have all of that issue when a road was commissioned, and the road you had superintended over it on the way to Lofa County, which is where you come from, okay? And she said, well, that just happened. She didn't know that the two senators would be there, and she was not endorsing anybody. But this time around, you are leading the opposition party. Do you have her support? What is your relationship with her? Second, sorry to interrupt you. And the second point I wanted to raise is that you've accused President George Weah of profligacy, of corruption, how the census and population preparation process, has been abused, how, money, has been mismanaged, how he has abandoned the country. Is he back, by the way? The last time I saw him, he was still watching football in Doha. So are you going to conduct a probe? Are you saying that if you win the election in 2023, you will, although your campaign slogan is AREST, are you going to add the other R and arrest people?
That's a good question. The Liberian people have lived a long time with impunity. The Liberian people have suffered a lot, and they have a decision to make. The Liberian people would like to see justice. They like to see ill-gotten wealth restored, or people who got rich overnight to account. I don't think it's a bad thing for you to say, this is what I did and this is what I got out of what I have done. We continue to see a country that is without good roads, children without hope for education, and people are getting rich overnight. I don't think it's a bad thing to ask them to say, how much did you earn within the period, and how were you able to get what you have? I think that's what the Liberians would like to see, and that's what I would like to do.
Absolutely. But sir, I wanted you to talk about Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is not my problem. Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and I worked. There's not a time we had any dispute. The decision she made is her decision. She knows why she did it. I'm not going to go into that.
Let's talk about your economic policy for Liberia. Under President George Weah, we've seen food prices rise and people unable to afford staple food in the country, and inflation rates have gone up. What are your plans to improve the lot of Liberians and to ensure that food prices come down so that the average Liberian can afford to eat and feed their family?
Well, I don't know where you come from with the information that food prices are affordable, because when Mr. Weah took power, we were told that rice price was going to come down to $500 a bag. $500 a bag, Liberian dollars, you compute at a rate of 150. Today, rice, they just announced, is over $17 US a bag. And you tell me, for people, most of whom are earning less than $100, I don't know how they can afford that, send their children to school and go. So it is not true that food price has come down. Life is very difficult in Liberia. I live there.
That's what I asked. I said that food prices have gone up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
What are your plans to make
None of my plans are that. In fact, is to start with what the Liberian people, touching the lives of the small people in agriculture. If 70 to 80% of the people depend on agriculture, I want to start with that, where I worked before, and I know that it was possible that at a time we were importing only about 30% of our staple food. And the potential is there. The soil is there. The farmers are there. all the cooperatives that we had that were working, none of them are functioning. Liberians, even the cocoa and coffee we used to export, there's no market for it. I have gone in the rural community and I've met Liberians. If you want to export your cocoa and coffee, you have to take it to Guinea because all the marketing channels that were set up, nobody has paid attention to them. We have to start giving the people hope from where they believe and what they know. And I know we are able and we have the potential to at least produce food to feed a country in a reasonable way.
As we start to wrap up, one thing quickly, and it was a good thing you talked about rice because we remember the famous Tolbert rice riots in the 70s and how it impacted on Liberia. But one thing real quickly, we saw the effect of Ebola, how it ravaged the healthcare sector in Liberia, and also COVID. The healthcare sector in Liberia is at an all-time low. What are you going to do to ramp up the healthcare sector once again in Liberia?
No, that's why I talk about starting with sanitation, where the people are able to have a preventive healthcare delivery system, while we try to build the right infrastructure for curative medicine. The healthcare sector is deplorable because of the same sanitation, the lack of good drinking water. You go to Monrovia, most often the hospitals say typhoid. It starts with water, quality of water. I had said that I want to make sure that we keep not just the rural, but urban communities clean, the schools and all of these places of public use, keep them very much sanitary and give the people some feeling that they can live in a clean environment. The healthcare sector, the deal to, it is not that it is not on paper, it is there. It's the matter of affordability, it's a matter of even those that are giving healthcare services, they are not given the right incentives, and most of the people will prefer leaving the country, those who can afford. And we cannot afford that because most of the people cannot afford to leave.
Well, we have just about 2 minutes. There's a question I wanted to ask you.
All right.
Many years back, I reviewed a book written on Liberia. And I know that in Liberia, there's an establishment, a very powerful establishment. I don't want to go into the details on TV. Where do you stand in relation to that establishment? And is it true, as alleged by your critics, that you are running a tribal ticket?
A what?
Tribal, ethnic.
Oh, no.
And you keep complaining about the Congo people.
If there's anybody I complain about the actions of people, the neglect of people, not about, I'm one of those persons who I can say I'm well integrated. I went to institutions that we mixed up well. The idea is I do not talk about people, I talk about actions of people. And I think there's a lot that is wrong in our society with respect to people rather than talking about people themselves. And I am well connected in Liberia.
With the establishment?
Everywhere.
You know what the establishment
I
is?
know, but again,
I'm sure you do. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much for coming to the conversation.